You have probably heard a lot about Islam on the news, online, maybe even from friends. But what if I told you that many of those ideas are based on misunderstandings or just plain myths? Today, let's break down some of the biggest misconceptions about Islam and get to the truth behind them. The first misconception is that we as a Muslim worship the Kaaba. At the center of the Grand Mosque in Mecca, there's a cube shaped building called the Kaaba. It's a deeply symbolic structure in Islam, but contrary to popular belief, Muslims don't worship it. The Kaaba simply serves as a common direction, a focal point for Muslim prayers around the world. Whether someone's in Indonesia, Nigeria, or Canada, they all face the same direction when praying. This unites Muslims spiritually, but the worship is always and only directed to God, not the building itself. In fact, before facing Mecca, Muslims originally faced Jerusalem in prayer. The direction changed only after a specific command in the Quran. So again, the Kaaba isn't an idol. It's not considered divine. It's a symbol of unity, not an object of worship. The second misconception is that Islam is an Arab religion. One of the biggest myths is that Islam is just for Arabs, or that it's somehow tied to Arab identity. But here's the fact: over 80% of Muslims aren't Arab. Islam is a global faith. The country with the largest Muslim population is Indonesia. In fact, Muslims live on every continent, and Islam has deep roots across Africa, South Asia, Europe, and beyond. The Quran itself emphasizes this universality. It describes the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a mercy to all worlds, not to a specific race or ethnicity. In his final sermon, the Prophet made it crystal clear: no Arab is superior to a non Arab, and no race is better than another, except by virtue of character and piety. The third misconception is that Islam worships a moon god. Some people claim that Islam is a continuation of an ancient moon worship. This likely comes from misunderstandings around the crescent moon symbol, often associated with Islam. But here's the truth: Islam has no official symbol. The crescent and star became associated with Muslim empires much later, especially during the Ottoman era, but they are not religious symbols prescribed by the faith. Islam is monotheistic. God, Allah in Arabic, is not part of creation. He's not the moon, not the sun, not a man, not an animal, just pure, absolute divine. In fact, the Quran directly warns against worshipping celestial bodies. It says, "Do not bow to the sun or the moon, but bow to God who created them." So, Allah is not the moon god, He is the creator of the moon and everything else in existence. The fourth misconception is that Muslims don't believe in Jesus. This one shocks a lot of people. Muslims absolutely believe in Jesus, but probably not in the way that many are used to. In Islam, Jesus, peace be upon him, is considered one of the greatest prophets ever sent by God. He was born miraculously to the Virgin Mary, performed incredible miracles by God's permission, and he will return before the end of times. What Muslims don't believe is that Jesus is God, or the literal Son of God. Islam teaches that God is completely one, without partners, equals, or offspring. In fact, Jesus is mentioned more times by name in the Quran than Muhammad, peace be upon him. And Mary, she has an entire chapter named after her in the Quran, and is described as one of the most honored women in history. The bottom line: rejecting Jesus actually goes against Islam. Believing in him is part of the faith. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and many people judge Islam without ever speaking to a Muslim or opening the Quran. But once you start digging, you will see that Islam is not a religion of violence, race, or idol worship. It's a faith rooted in oneness, mercy, and submission to the creator of everything. And as always, thank you for watching.